in order to kind of move into this. Yeah. We are pointing out the phenomenal union. The Nefesh Olikis and Nefesh Abamis are by nature opposites. And yet, as we spoke before, all the way before, that there is a communication level between them and the Seichel, in Seichel. Surely the Nefesh Olikis has to make a special effort to explain to the Nefesh Abamis with its parameters. But nevertheless, it is something that it can transmit. And the same thing, even more impressive, is the fact that on the Midas level, that they meet up and that they can communicate even on the Midas level, which is really, if you think about it, if you focus in on what we've explained, it is really, so to speak, a phenomenal, it's almost a miracle. When we first started talking about Midas, if you remember, we spent a couple of days to explain the difference between Seichel and Midas. In brief, the Seichel can comprehend and can contemplate on something that is distant. I don't have to be personally involved. I see it, I understand it. So it is still quite an accomplishment that the Nefesh Abamis should be able to relate or understand in his Seichel concepts that the Nefesh Olikis presents, but nevertheless, it is not so impressive, because Nefesh Abamis is not really giving up anything. Okay, I understand what you're saying. But when you talk about Midas, Midas means, as we said then, Midas means that you were touched personally. That's what Midas is. Midas is something that you have a personal affection, personal affect by it, and you have a personal drawing to it. So here, when we say that Nefesh Abamis is drawn, is affected by the Midas of Nefesh Olikis, it is almost like saying, the table will obey your command. You tell the table, listen, you're not supposed to be here, you're supposed to be over there. And all of a sudden the table wakes up and says, oh yeah, you're right, I'm supposed to be over there. Of course, this is an exaggeration, but the exaggeration is to express the phenomenal accomplishment of this. Nefesh Abamis is only affected by something that touches it, that has to do with me. Elokus is something which, by definition, is not geared on touch, on experience. Elokus is, by definition, the principle of truth, how things are on the level of truth rather than the level of experience. Give you a simple illustration. Jewelry. Everybody knows what jewelry is? Yes? There is what's called genuine jewelry. A little chain made of gold. And the chain may be, you can hardly see it, it's a very thin little chain. And then you have a chain that really weighs it down. It's really, a chain. And it looks almost like gold. It also shines, it's also yellow. And, it's a real chain. That one you can't mistake. You always see it. So you have two types of people. Every person says, I don't want anything, I just want the real thing. I don't care how blatant it is, how screaming it is, I want the real thing. If it's not the real thing, it's not for me. Then you have a completely different mentality that says, no, I need something that you can see, that really screams. You understand? This is the nefesh alekis and nefesh abamis. It's not necessarily alekis, it's a different quality. The nefesh abamis should be affected by the needs of nefesh alekis is a minor miracle. And yet, it is in line. It is definitely possible. This is what we are learning, talking about. So the Rebbe explains, how does this take place? It takes place because the nefesh alekis is misboinen. Before we go to misboinen, midos are created, especially by the nefesh alekis. Midos are created by seichel. But the creation of midos by seichel is quite different than the explaining explaining what the reality is. It's not enough to explain it. Like, for instance, this mashal that I gave, a genuine, a real thing. You can explain anyone, this is real gold, or this is a piece of metal. And this gold can cost $500, and this metal can cost $25. Okay? You can see the difference. But that does not affect me. In order that I should really appreciate the difference, you have to really contemplate, what does it mean, genuine gold? What's the difference between gold and just because it costs more? It looks exactly identical. So you have to really, so to speak, dig in and contemplate, what is the difference? The metal only looks like that, but it doesn't have the real quality. What is the real quality of gold? There are many qualities. One quality of gold is that gold does not tarnish. Gold is, so to speak, forever. Gold is something which doesn't even belong, doesn't have the, so to speak, the limits, the natural limits of the natural world.
Doesn't rust?
Doesn't rot. Doesn't rot. That's why, these boats that are sunk over there in Alaska, they're all trying to get them. Why? Because there is gold there. It may be sunk under the ocean in salt water for 100 years. If I fetch it out, I'm going to have gold. If you fetch anything else out, it's going to crumble in your hands. The Gemara says, the The world is not fit to use gold. The real reason why gold was created is because of Mizamigdash. That's where it belongs. That's where it really fits. In the world, it doesn't fit because really, it does not fit into the general scheme of things. In the world, everything changes from day to day. Gold doesn't change. So, in order to really begin to appreciate it, you have to not just to know, but you have to really relate to it and think, okay, so what does that mean to me? How does it affect me? So this is called hisboinanus. Hisboinanus means to relate to it on a personal level. So similarly, the Nefesh Olekis understands Elokus and is misboinen in Elokus, but the important thing is, it is misboinen Elokus, as we said before, we explained last time, behislapshus be'asechot b'shabanis. It's misboinen through the pathways, as we explained last time, remember, through the pathways of the Nefesh Habanis. So that the Nefesh Habanis also could see how the Nefesh Elokis got to this point. And it also, it say, oh yeah, we can also relate to it. And then, when the Nefesh Elokis becomes affected by it, okay, now we're going to continue now. Okay, the end of the fifth line from the bottom. Harei, bechinas his spoilers are midas the Nefesh Elokis. The type of his spoilers of the midas of the Nefesh Elokis, shenasa mehisboinanus zois, that is created by this hisboinanus. Even though this is still only the Nefesh Elokis, but and the midas are the Nefesh Elokis. However, the type of midas that are created, the hisboilers that is affected by this kind of hisboinanus, bo bebchinas hisboilus behergesh belev ubosar hagashmi. This hisboinanus is not a hisboinanus that the Nefesh Elokis has independent of the guf, at the level of the Nefesh Elokis. Just like the Nefesh Elokis understands things that are not related to physical world, understanding purely Elokus. But in this hisboinanus, when it's misboinen Elokus, as we said, be his slapshus and the second of Shabanis, then the resultant midos are tangible midos. They're felt physically. They're felt physically. Behergish belev. How is a lakus felt physically? It touches the physical heart. How does it mean? The hergish belev bosar hagashmi, the physical heart, the physical flesh feels this hisboinanus. So coming back to our illustration of the gold chain, there is a concept of gold chain, like we said, like the Gemara says, gold is outside of the world. If you reach on this brain that gold is outside of the world, you're not going to have a hisboinanus that touches the heart. This is an intellectual hisboinanus. But when you're misboinen at the lower level, look, this chain you're going to have forever. It's never going to tarnish. You talk in practical terms. Then you have a physical type of reaction, not just an intellectual type of reaction, but you have a physical type of reaction because you are describing it on a physical level. even though you're describing something that is really, so to speak, beyond world in essence. He's saying it's going to last forever. Nothing in the world lasts forever. So you are taking it out, so to speak, a little bit on a higher level. But that's not your emphasis. Your emphasis is how this reflects itself in the world. That this is going to last forever. So the Nefesh Abamis can join in and can understand what you're talking about. Last forever, okay, it makes sense. And it also joins in his verse. Wow, this is going to last forever. The Nefesh Elikis is mispoiled. See here we have this dichotomy. The Nefesh Elikis will be mispoiled from the fact that there is something that is completely out of the world. The Nefesh Abamis is informed of the fact something that in the world there is something that's going to last forever. He takes the chitzonius of it, but nevertheless there is a communication level over there. So then the spoilers of Nefesh Elikis affects the spoilers of Nefesh Abamis. So this is the similar union. When Nefesh Elikis is boiling Holocaust, but it is boiling the hislapshus in the seichel of Nefesh Abamis. So the spoilers of the Nefesh Elikis is tangible, something that the goof itself experiences. As a result of that, the Nefesh Abamis also feels it. Okay, let's go inside.
So like the midas dressing up in midas? The midas of this result. The excitement.
No, the slapshus is in the seichel.
Right, the seichel.
As a result of that, there is midas.
Right, they both have midas. They both get excited about the same thing.
In a different way, as I pointed out, but still there is this way. Let's look inside. So, let's follow through in the inside. Everybody has a place. The aspect of the midas of Nefesh Elikis, the hispoilus, the excitement element of the midas, of the Nefesh Elikis, shanase, that is the results, his bonus from this, of this contemplation, but it comes, meaning it expresses itself, bebechinas hispoilus behergish, in a type of hispoilus, that is behergish belev, that is felt in the heart. It's not something which is outside of the physical experience. Ubasar hagashmi, and the physical flesh. It kind of touches you even on the physical level. And the Pasuk describes it. Libi uvsari, my heart and my flesh, Yerananu el keil choy. They sing to the living God. This, that the heart and the flesh sing to the living God, is a result of the hisbonus of Nefesh Elikis within the physical realm, within the physical world. Shahalev ubos el hagashmi, the Nefesh Ativis, or the heart and the physical flesh of the Nefesh Ativis, of the natural Nefesh. Behadam hu ha-Nefesh, which is in the blood, and he said the dam, this is the Nefesh, this is where the excitement of physical life is. Mispoil al elokus, it becomes affected, it becomes excited, al elokus, over elokus. And what is the excitement about? What is the effect of this excitement? What does it mean excited about Elokus? This is an important aspect in this. He's mispoiling Elokus, not he's mispoiling Elokus as something distant. Seichel can be mispoiled or something that's distant. Midas have a completely different nature. They don't mispoil something distant. If they mispoil, means that they were touched directly. Therefore, this hispoilus is something which affects the person himself. Mispoil alakus lotzes. He's mispoil, he's excited, and he's drawn lotzes to leave, to come out, to step forward. Metayvas achumriyos, from out of the chumriyos of the coarse taivas desires, to be incorporated and to connect to Havaya, to Elokus. Taivas chumriyos, taivas gashmiyos, coarse taivas. This is something which is in direct contact with Nefesh HaBahamis. That's what Nefesh HaBahamis can directly relate to. But after that he is misboin in Elokus, and he recognizes the truth of Elokus, then he does not want to be in the chumriyos, because he sees the insignificance of the chumriyos. He can't tolerate the chumriyos, because the Elokus has an element of truth that he can relate to. It's, again, going back to our muscle, which is a trivial muscle. Somebody who appreciates a piece of gold will really cannot tolerate anything else. It's not I can't relate to it. It turns me off. Why not? It looks nice. It turns me off. This is on a Gashmistic level, but this is everything can be used as a muscle to understand how it is in Ruchnis. In Ruchnis, this is the same thing. The Nefesh HaBahamis itself, having seen, having recognized the truth of Elokus within the Gashmistic world, he wants to step out from Taivas Chumriyos, and he wants to become connected and united with the union of godliness. Likolel v'dovek b'havaya, that he is drawn and is excited, he's spoiled, to be incorporated and attached to Havaya b'chol libe mamash, with his entire heart. Mamash, b'chol libe mamash means truly with his entire heart. In other words, it does not. Sometimes a person is drawn to something in the sense that, let me taste it. I'm staying where I am, but let me give it a taste. I'll visit you, and then I'll come back to where I am. But Niba B'chol Liba, not Mamash, means that he really despises the Chumriyus, and he wants to completely dissociate from that, and he wants completely to be in Elokus. That's when B'chol Liba, not Mamash. K'meisha Kosev, as the Posik says, B'chol Levovcho. What is B'chol Levovcho? With all your heart. That's what. B'shnei Yitzrech, with both Yitzers, with both perspectives. Shegam HaYitzer Hora, Shebechol HaSmoli Shebelev. Stop for a second what the statement is. The Yetzer Hora Shebechol HaSmoli Shebelev, which is on the left particle of the heart. Shemoli Taives Rois. The Yetzer Hora within its own abode, in the heart. Shemoli Taives Rois. That is full with Taives Rois, with negative Taives. V'yahavos Zoros, and with strange desires. Harehu nepach likdusho, that becomes transformed to Kedusha. Le'avo as Havaya, to love Havaya, godliness. u'misachid imo ahava the nefesh olekis, and it truly unites with the ahava that is in the nefesh olekis. This, what the Rebbe describes over here, although it's definitely possible, but this is the ultimate. This is called ishapcha. I mean, he's not describing something that's not possible, but there's a long way to that. This is ultimately Avodas HaTzadik. But see, the Avodas HaTzadik, and the Alter Rebbe explains that in certain moments the Beinani is also eligible for that, capable of that. The Beinani is not capable to have it on a constant basis. But when he's actually misboinen and is during that time, he's capable of having that feeling. This is not exclusively Avodas HaTzadikim in that respect. Yeah. So it would be appropriate for us at this moment to discuss briefly over here what the Rebbe says. Even the Yetzer RASHAB b'chol hasmoli, that is full of taivas rois v'avis zoris. And that is nebach l'kdusha. Now, can you imagine somebody who is seeking to do evil, taivas rois, who actually, is a criminal, taivas rois, and then he's misboiden in the lakus, and all of a sudden he wants a lakus. What are you talking about? The union from taivas rois is much more subtle than somebody who's a criminal. In general, the union of taivas, Nefesh Elokis also has taivas, but it's a completely different nature. The desires of Nefesh Elokis are not called taivas. The desires of Nefesh Elokis are called taivas. What's the difference? Taivas rois. The Nefesh Elokis, it perceives Elokus and perceives how everything is united with Elokus, and it itself is totally connected with Elokus. Now, what is Elokus? Elokus, as we always say, it's the absolute reality, absolute truth. An important thing in context of what we're discussing here, in contrast to Nefesh Abamis, Elokus is not something. I want to step back, so we'll have the contrast. What are the desires that a person has? Let's say, we discussed the other day, what drives the businessman? Competition. What's competition? Competition is that the other guy shouldn't be ahead of me. That's a very important thing. The other guy shouldn't be ahead of me. In other words, he does not have a focus, a direct focus on what he wants. He just doesn't want to be second to the other guy. What's in this being second to the other guy? It is recognizing one's own shortcoming. The Nefesh Abamis, Bechlal, in the world is by definition vulnerable. What vulnerable means? It is by definition not real. Nothing in the world is real in and of itself. You have a car. Is a car, so to speak, a natural thing? A car will maintain itself? No, a car will not maintain itself. You drive 100 miles and you have to maintain it. Everything is vulnerable. It doesn't have a basic base for its existence. Everything in the world has to be constantly sustained. Elokus is just the opposite. Elokus is this is the reality itself. This is the source of all life. This is life itself. Like we gave the other day, a while ago, we gave the emotion. I said, the neshama is in the goof, and it gives life to the goof. But the goof does not become neshama. That's why the goof can be damaged. The goof can have a cut. But because the neshama is in the goof, so even if the goof gets damaged, it can heal. Why? How does it heal? The neshama directs the goof to heal. It gives it life to heal. Because the neshama itself cannot be damaged. But the goof is damageable. And the whole concern the whole time is, what do I do to protect that the goof shouldn't be damaged? Therefore, the entire mindset and the entire focus is on the ra, on the shortcoming. And when it has a taiva, let's say, it's a taiva for money. What's a taiva for money? What's money? In itself, there's nothing to it. It is that I shouldn't be short when I need it. The whole thing is concerned for shortages. Or that somebody else shouldn't have more than I, and therefore I'll be behind him. It's all the negative element.
That's the Tavis Rose?
That's what I tell you is Rois. It's Tavis based on Ra, based on your own, on shortcoming. It's not Tavis, the desire of the Nefesh Elokis that is based on the Lakus, but it's based on the good of things. But it's the whole Taiva is based because of your perception of the negative. A person, there are all kinds of different things. A person eats. He eats every food that he can get his hand on. Okay? And he's overeating, whatever it is. Why? Why? There are all kinds of different mentalities in this, but the basic is he's afraid he's going to miss it. Afraid he's going to miss it. I have it now, Hapanai. I know he's going to have it the next minute. So he stops himself until he gets sick. It's interesting. I once read that in China, they have their own culture over there, behind the Chinese wall. So in their culture, it is, so to speak, respectable. It shows on manliness. You sit by a table and you eat. And you eat to the point where you can't eat anymore. You're really stuffed to the brim. What are you going to do? You walk out to the bathroom. You put 2 fingers in your throat. You throw the food out. And then you go back to eat. What are you going to do? Not eat? So, how are you satisfying your timer? It's a cultural thing. That's not Taivas Rois. Taiva based on Ra. This is the cult of the Nefesh HaBahamis. This is the culture of the Nefesh HaBahamis. We have Shabbos. So the Shabbos we set up, and it should be nice, pleasant. It should be kovedik, and then the food should be attractive, and you should enjoy the taste of the food. Why? Because Lakovit Shabbos. How is it Mitzad the Nefesh Abamis? Making food attractive for the enjoyment of the food itself. And the whole thing, people go from one restaurant to the other restaurant. It's a whole restaurant chase, you know. And every night in the cultural world, every night is a whole decision. Which restaurant are we going to eat today? Oh, I never visited that one. That one we have to visit now. A year ago I visited that. I think I liked it. Let's go to that one again. It's a whole Iber Levenish. It's a whole decision process. What is it consistent? Nothing. There's nothing positive in it. Let's get Taivas Rois and Avis Rois. Zoris. Nefesh Elokis also has desires, as we explained, but it's a completely different thing. He desires it, doesn't desire it for itself, for its own experience. He desires because he wants to be with the truth. He wants to be with the Elokos. But this recognition of the truth of Elokos is so powerful that the Nefesh Elokis experiences that it affects the Nefesh Abamis too. That it too dissociates, breaks away from this Shtusim and Taivas Rois, and it can't really enjoy it anymore. And it also turns to want in Yom Elokos at its level. But nevertheless, there's a story of the when the Alter Rebbe, when they came to imprison the Alter Rebbe, so the Alter Rebbe ran away from the house. He went away and he hid in the field, in the garden. And the Shmuel Munkes, you heard about him, Shmuel Munkes. He came. I came after the Rebbe, and he was with the Rebbe over there. The Rebbe asked him, says, Shmuel, what do you think? They came to arrest me. What do you think? Should I go to them or should I not? So Shmuel says, I think you should go. I think you should go. And Shmuel was a true sharp man. He says, Monovshach. You know what Monovshach means? The Monovshach. If you're a Rebbe, nothing can possibly hurt you. So you're immune to any hurt. If you're not a Rebbe, by what right did you steal from Eden, from so many Eden, the taivas of Achila? How did you dare to take away from Eden the taivas of Achila, the pleasure of eating? So then you deserve it. I said, then you deserve it. So, yes, indeed, the Nefesh Abamis loses its interest in this taivas rois when it is exposed to Inyan Elokis. And it's certain, especially when it sees how the Nefesh Elokis is really living in it. It's contagious to the Nefesh Abamis also.
Isn't that because of the mind?
No. The mind, it is because of the mind, but this effect is not from the mind, the effect is from the midas, from the excitement of the Nefesh Elokis. I've explained, the mind can explain to you something, but it's from a distance. It doesn't really affect you. I see, it's nice, it's interesting, okay, thank you very much, let me go to my steak. It doesn't really affect it. But then, as a result of this his bonus, of this experience, so he's drawn away from Talis Rois, HaNepach L'Kedusha L'Avos Havaya U'Misachid Im Ha'avad HaNefesh Elokis. Here, U'Misachid Im Ha'avad HaNefesh Elokis. He joins in with the Avad that the Nefesh Elokis is experiencing. The Nefesh Abamis joins along. Why does Nefesh Abamis going along? He's in a separate compartment, so to speak. Let the Nefesh Elokis have his thing, and you stay put. No. Why? How does he get drawn into it? Because the Nefesh Elokis was involved in Nefesh Abamis in its contemplation, in its isvolus. Because the Nefesh Abamis he was able to show that you also see what I see. You also understand what I understand. And therefore, when you see I'm excited, you know what I'm excited about. And that's why he joins it, he's drawn into it. Okay. So this is a full explanation that we had in this whole page. How the seichel of Nefesh Elokis and the midas of Nefesh Elokis affect the seichel and the midas of Nefesh Abamis. And then, going back to the Ian, that the Nefesh Elokis is mevare the Nefesh Abamis. Harei, thus, at the day achizozu, as an effect of this achiza, of this grasp, Masha HaKoicha is the Seichel of Midas and Nefesh Elokis, where the Seichel of Midas of Nefesh Elokis ne'achozim, they grasp the Seichel of Midas and Nefesh Abamis. They grasp in the Seichel of Midas and Nefesh Abamis. In other words, the Nefesh Abamis also understands what the Nefesh Elokis is so excited about. Harinase habiru v'hazichu the Nefesh Abamis. Thereby, there's an effect. And the effect is that the Nefesh Abamis becomes nisbader. It becomes refined. It doesn't become Nefesh Elokis, but it becomes refined. It kind of loses its coarseness. And it loses its coarseness has a double implication. That even those things that he wants because of his own interest, he doesn't do it in such a coarse way, he does it with a more refined way. Like we said, the Hilchos Derech Eretz, not to stuff your mouth, and not to overeat, and not to eat without in a not a Derech Eretz way, in all kinds of different activities are done with greater restraint, greater finesse. That's also a refinement. But the most important thing that, as a result of that, he actually appreciates the godly truth. He actually appreciates it. He can actually relate to it. And even want it to an extent.
Is this refinement is a permanent thing, or it's only as long as the person is meditating, as long as the Nefesh Abamis is shown, for however long it's being shown?
It's both. On the one hand, it is really affected and it's really refined to the extent that it kind of shams. It can't really relate to the coarseness, to coarse things. But it is not transformed to the extent that if you would expose it fully back into the world, it will not go back to it. Still, you need to maintain, you need to continue. But while you're continuing, it is really affected. It is then really affected, and I can't stand it. But it's not a guarantee that it won't fall off if a person, the pashtus is a person who does that, who goes through and it stops learning Torah, stops learning Shir, stops doing anything. Eventually, he will relate back to a coarse physical world. No question about it. I kind of recall, based on your question, I remember when I was in yeshiva in Montreal, and there was a Yaman over there. I don't want to speak much because who knows, maybe someone knows. There was a Yaman over there who was, of course, a Shemitah mitzvahs and Shabbos and Tarazah, but he had he had a cut beard, and he was not a deep chassid, he was a lot about the city, involved in more or less in the world. And somebody told me, that he used to daven Shabbos way, very deep, very long. He was a big oivet at one time. I said, yeah, I can't believe it. Can't believe it. So, doesn't mean that it wasn't genuine. Doesn't mean it didn't have any effect. But if things change and you don't pursue it, then you can't go back. You can lose it. This is something that was very common, particularly Yidden who came to this country after having suffered very difficult travel in Russia and throughout, where they were completely deprived, and they came to this country, and it was like Eretz Zovas Chol V'Dvash, it was like a blessed land. They never saw anything like this, and they wanted to experience this type of life for a moment, a little relief from the deprivation that they felt there. But what happens after that? You seek a little relief. You don't want to go back, right? You settle into. So it happened, not common. It happened a lot of time that people became a little bit more involved in the Gashmis in America than they should have. Because, I said, because of their previous experiences, like a reaction and so forth. So it's possible, even those people who were mamish, the Rebbe used to say all the time, the Rosh Yidden, they were Mesilas Nefesh in Russia. What happened to you? Where's your Mesilas Nefesh? Come in America, and we don't see it anymore. So it's not a guarantee, but nevertheless, it is true that it does have a true effect. But the Nefesh Abamis, actually, ultimately, it transformed to Elokus.
So is it going to be still called like the Nefesh Hamas?
I'm sorry?
Is it still going to be called like the Nefesh Hamas after it's transformed to like a...
Yes. Yes, it's still, because the nature of Nefesh Abamis and Nefesh Elokis are different natures. But the Nefesh Abamis wants still to experience it. In other words, he is not with Elokus, he enjoys Elokus. But it's still, so to speak, something that is, there is a personal enjoyment in this. Nefesh Elokis is totally a safer facing, in other words, it's not my thing. There's a story of the Baal Shem Tov, But the Baal Shem Tov stubbornly beseeched, was stubborn, and he implored the Milo that a certain town, there was a gzeira on a certain town. A certain town that wherever there was something inappropriately done, there was a gzeira that this town would be wiped off. And Baal Shem Tov pleaded, and they wouldn't listen. It wasn't granted. His fear wasn't granted. So he forced his way in, and Baal Shem Tov, he forced his way in, and he was stubborn. And no, this has to be. And then, so he got through. He went in, so to speak, against the Bezin Shel Milo, so to speak, and he got his way. But then, as a result of that, he was punished. What was the punishment? He was told, now you lost all of your Mahaba. You lost all of your Mahaba. Center said, I lost all of Mahaba. Wonderful, great. Now I can serve the Meibesh without any ulterior motive. Now I can really serve the Meibesh. Das is Nefesh Elokis. Purely. That the Nefesh HaBahamis should want Olam Haba is a big accomplishment. The Nefesh HaBahamis is not interested in Olam. I'm on the stake right here. To want Olam Haba is a big accomplishment. Very much, very refined. But this, that he should not be interested in anything just to serve him, this is way beyond.
I have a question for the Nefesh Bahamas. Isn't like he understands that the Nefesh Elokis is having a happy time, so therefore he wants to join in. So that coming from the brain. He feels them, just like he sees, and all of a sudden he also feels. That's what I was thinking. It sounds like from here that just that Nefesh Elokis is.
Let me ask him. You ever see a football player?
Yeah.
Okay. Imagine a football player walks in here and sees us learning, and he sees, everybody here engrossed, and he sees you so excited. You think he will say, "Oh, this is great. Let me in." Or would you say, "You idiots! I know what you're doing over here. Did you ever throw a ball? Did you ever catch a ball? You know what that is?" Doesn't work that way. Can you imagine a football player with all his gear coming in over here? It looks like a bear, right? What are you doing?
Gorilla. So let me. What is through the mind?
What?
It's through the mind that he understands it.
The Nefesh Elokis is exposing the Nefesh HaBahamis through its mind, but the drawing is an experience type of thing. The actual feel and its experience of the Elokus element of the Midas. This is not through the mind. It's good that you ask. It's not through the mind. The mind is a means by which the life element of the Nefesh HaBahamis, Nefesh Elokis, is affected. And he gets excited and he gets drawn into it. You buy a car. There are better cars, worse cars, whatever it is. You go out and you buy a better car. Okay? So at the time when you buy a better car, you have cheshbon. What's a cheshbon? You know what makes this car better? Why is it better? Then you sit down in the car and you enjoy the ride. Do you enjoy the ride because you know that it's a better car, or because you're enjoying the ride because it gives you a better ride? Which one? Hello?
Yeah, it sounds like you're actually, because you're driving.
Because you're actually experiencing it. Not because you know that it's a better car. That's midas.
Thank you.
All right. Now we're ready for what's called the rest of the story. Right. All right. So I guess this will be it. I don't know what's for next week. You're all going to be here. Yes? No? You're not going to be here.
I don't know when the band is.
Sorry?
I don't know when the band is.